What's going on, guys? This is DaWoblefet, and welcome to Players Cup 4, Round 8 in Swiss. I'm facing off against Brandon Davis, who goes by bdogplatinum online. Now, this is not to be confused with Brendan Lewis, the commentator, who goes by Mr. B-Dog. This is a different B-Dog. It's not Brendan, it's Brandon. Try not to get those two confused. I remember I was initially. But my opponent here has a Trick Room team, and they have a very sad move for me. They have Haze on their Dustclops. Now, if you want to troll Registeel, Haze Dustclops is the way to troll Registeel. Not only can Registeel not do any damage to Dustclops, you can Heavy Slam, but, you know, you can't do that much damage. But it can haze away the defense boosts, and that's actually a huge problem, because one of my most reliable ways of beating Glacier is by setting up iron defenses with my Registeel while they're in Trick Room. So I'll use like Clefairy support to maneuver Registeel to get a defense boost, and then I can wait out the Trick Room, eventually body press them out of their boosts, or body press them once they're done with their Dynamax, and then I can win the game from there. But you can't do that as straightforwardly with Haze Dustclops, so that's going to be annoying. My opponent also has Sun. I don't like fighting against Sun. Sun is sad for me to fight. I don't like Sun. And they also have Follow Me plus Trick Room. So I can't taunt the Dustclops. That's not an option for me. Now, my Spectre is still definitely very, very good here as a lead. It will trade very effectively. We know, you'll know from watching my Team Builder video, that I will be able to survive a G-Max Life Orb G-Max Vine Lash based on Leaf Storm with my Spectre, and I'll be able to Snarl back. So that's very important. My opponent it won't be very effective for them to try to lead Sun into me, but Trick Room is looking pretty scary, so I'm a little bit nervous about going up against this. My opponent starts off by leading with their Dustclops and Togekiss, which indicates, obviously, that they want to set Trick Room, as I lead with my Spectre and Moltres, half expecting Sun, and then also wanting to lead double strong moves into this Dustclop. So I go for Taunt and Fiery Wrath here. This is pretty cool. If my opponent opts not to follow me, which they should, if they didn't follow me, then I would get the Taunt off, which is important. And more importantly, if I happen to get a flinch with Fiery Wrath here, I would prevent the Dustclops from setting Trick Room. I definitely don't want to go for Nasty Plat, because then the Dustclops will surely get Trick Room, and then they can just haze away my Nasty Plat boost. I don't want to do that. So if I get a flinch here with Fiery Wrath, then I probably just win the game right here, but no such luck. I can't just count on getting a turn 1 game enders, unfortunately. So now I decide to double target into the Dustclops. I want it removed. I want it gone. If I can remove the Dustclops, then my opponent will have a lot of trouble breaking my Registeel, because I have both Clefairy and my Registeel in the back, so I can still do this sort of game plan versus Dustclops. They've brought Togekiss. Their last Pokemon can be either Torkoal, Hydreigon, or Venusaur, given how Trick Room oriented they were. I'm going to guess it's Torkoal. But if I can get my Registeel set up, that's going to be really, really good. But my opponent goes for Pain Split, and I'm like, shoot. I forgot about them doing that, because that means that my Fiery Wrath and Shadow Ball aren't going to put this Dustclops into KO range. Thankfully, their Togekiss did not switch out. And I also learned something very important here. My Moltres is slower than the Togekiss. Now, that's unusual. My Moltres is 138 speed, or 39? One of the two. So this Togekiss is running Timid and likely max speed. So this Togekiss is very quick, which actually ends up being very nice for me, as I get a flinch with Fiery Wrath before they are able to go for Air Slash, their only attack. They don't have Dazzling Gleam, so that's good. I get to avoid a lot of damage. I get to put more damage on the Dustclops. More importantly, I'm wasting Trick Room turns. So this time I decide to go for Snarl. And honestly, in hindsight, I have no idea why. If I did the exact same play that I did last time, which was double the Dustclops with Fire Wrath and Shadow Ball, I would be in a great spot here. I would have knocked out the Dustclops. The Glacier would only have like 2 turns of Trick Room. They just set Trick Room. They wasted a turn, and then it's this turn, so they would have only had 2 turns of Trick Room left for their Glacier to max, which means my Registeel would definitely be able to get an Iron Defense up against them. But because I went for the Snarl like a moron, now my opponent has their Glacier basically in for free, so Thankfully, I do have a switch out available to me, but I don't feel very comfortable going hard into Registeel because my opponent has a very reasonable max Quake into that slot since it will knock out the Glastrier. I don't expect them to double that slot with Nightshade and another attack. I expect them to just hit that slot with Max Ice. But I also can't afford to risk it with my Moltres, so I'm going to Protect. I don't want to mess around with them going for something like a Pain Split into Moltres and then Max Ice. That would be awful. That would be really terrible, especially if I maxed, because that would likely KO me even through max, even with the Friend Guard. So, best case here is they go for Max Ice into my Moltres through Protect. It wouldn't even be that good, because then they could just haze away my Weakness Policy boost the next turn, but I need something good to happen for me here. What I really need them to do is not max Steel Spike into my, what was my Glastrier. But I didn't think they would, because they already have the Registeel. But they do go for Max Hailstorm, so if I switched in Registeel there, that would have been great. My Clefairy is able to survive that attack normally, but thanks to the critical hit, it's knocked me out, and so definitely some justice there with all the luck that I've been getting in my previous games. The critical hit there would not have knocked me out with the hail damage. Next turn, I would have been able to go for Protect with Clefairy or Follow Me. More realistic, I mean, if I go for Follow Me, then they can go for Nightshade and still knock out my Moltres, so it's not good, but potentially I can switch to my Registeel. Maybe I can do something with that, so it would minimally deny the Pain Split. But now I'm in big trouble. I've got to... I can't even Protect with my Moltres at this point. I don't want to do that because they can go for a Pain Split into my Moltres. And if they Pain Split my Moltres here, I'd be put really low, and then they can Quake my... Registeel still, and that would be bad. They have a lot of plays available to them, and I feel, very limited number of plays. So I feel like I need to switch out my Moltres. I want to deny them getting health on their Dustclaps, because if they get a second Trick Room up, it's certainly over. Maybe I can do something. I still haven't used my Max, so maybe there's something I can do without that. My opponent actually switches out their Dustclaps, and so I'm like, okay. They switch into a Torkoal, and I'm like, that's neutral. They're going to be out of Trick Room when this interaction ends, which is good, but it's still definitely not ideal for me. I switch into my Spectre here, and Spectre is not going to, like, I'm not going to be able to knock out the Torkoal with Spectre plus Registeel unless I max Ghost, which realistically I could at this point, but if I do over Hailstorm, and I'm like, rats. If I had gone for the body press there, then this would have been a game. I would have been able to get with the Iron Defense up, I would have been able to pressure the Torkoal with a lot more damage. I have to go for the Iron Defense because otherwise the Glastrier will just knock me out. So, all in all, this is looking bad. They still have one more turn of max as well. I am in a pickle, to say the least. They also have +2 on their Glastrier, so maxing my Moltres won't help me. I will still faint to this attack. It'll be too strong. And so at this point, I've basically just nearly resigned. I can go for the Iron Defense, and I will survive the attack. I do have the Max Guard option available on my Moltres, but I don't want to go for it. Instead, I'm debating on whether or not to use Max Airstream or Darkness, based on what's more powerful. I want to basically use this attack into Torkoal and crit it. If I can crit the Torkoal, and I set up an Iron Defense, then maybe I can still win this game. Because the Glastrier can't Protect, so they would have to go Togekiss. I can 2-hit KO that with Heavy Slam. Maybe there's something I can pull off with some high horsepower misses. And so I'm like, at this point, I think I need to crit their Torkoal in order to have a shot. If they get an attack off, this Torkoal has both Burning Jealousy and Yawn. Either of those would be terrible for me. Either Yawning my Moltres to remove it from the game next turn, or Burning Jealousy would be even more punishing because since I've given myself a speed boost on both my Pokemon in an attempt to do more damage to the Torkoal. Yeah, this is looking rough. If I didn't go for the Iron Defense, I would have died to this Max Quake. So I'm glad I did that for that reason. But if they went for Burning Jealousy here, it's all but over, really. There's almost nothing I can do, and they do go for the Burning Jealousy. Very smart play on their part. My Registeel is now burned. My Moltres is also burned. I can't knock out the Glastrier. Maybe if I had gone for Max Darkness there, Max Darkness was probably the play because I think it would have crit. I think a crit would have knocked out the Torkoal anyway. So Max Darkness probably was a better play there, just so I could do ever so slightly more damage to the Glastrier if I needed to later. But it's basically all but over. My opponent can just go for the Icicle Crash here and the Burning Jealousy. If I had gone for the Max Darkness in the Glastrier, I would have offset its Max Quake boost, which would have meant I would have been able to maybe do a little bit more damage here, but it's not looking good. Recall that Body Press, even at +2, does not knock out Glastrier by itself. So this is going to do under half. This is an Assault Vest +1 Glastrier. It's not doing enough damage. Again, maybe if it had gotten the special defense drop the last turn, probably still wouldn't have been enough either. So, going for Body Press. If I get a critical hit, then maybe Moltres can win. Maybe Moltres can 3v1, but it's not looking likely. My opponent does go Icicle Crash, and they do miss, but as long as they go for Burning Gel, see, and they go for Yawn, and I'm like, like, I don't know what it is, but I mean, this happened last round too with my opponent not clicking Reflect. They're just not. They don't want to win. I don't know. And that Torkoal's in their left slot too, so I mean, if you misclicked, you can go back and choose the correct move. So I don't know what they were thinking, but I mean, they definitely just misclicked. Obviously, that couldn't have been an intentional play. Either that or it was a great oversight. But now, all of a sudden, that was the turn I needed. I needed one turn, and both my Pokemon didn't die. Now I can go for the Body Press into the Glastrier, knock it out. I can go for the Max Darkness and a Torkoal as well and knock it out. I'm also, I remember thinking to myself, I wanted to go for the Airstream in case the Glastrier switched to Togekiss or particularly to Togekiss. I got the wrong one. If I had gone just for Airstream into Togekiss like a normal person, this would have been way better, but instead I attacked the Glastrier and went for Body Press into Torkoal. I'm not even convinced that Body Press would have knocked out Torkoal from that range. I think maybe I mean no disrespect to my opponent by saying this, but I think maybe they rubbed a little bit off on me, or I rubbed a little bit off on them. How do you say that? I don't know. I think that was a poor play on my part. So Body Press does a low amount of damage to the Togekiss, but I'm still alive. And more importantly, my Moltres is done with its Dynamax. And you know what that means? That means I have Fiery Wrath available to me again. And guess what move this Togekiss doesn't have? Dazzling Gleam. So this Togekiss can only use Air Slash to hit my Moltres. And because it can only use Air Slash to hit my Moltres, that means I can go for Fiery Wrath. I'm faster than the Togekiss now. Before it was faster than me, but now I'm faster than it thanks to the Max Airstreams. I'm able to go for Fiery Wrath into the Torkoal. That'll knock it out. And I'm able to go for Heavy Slam into the Togekiss and do a lot of damage to it because I've got 2 speed boosts on my Registeel. Maybe that's why I definitely wanted to go for Airstream there so I could get the speed boost on my Registeel. Because at that point, I could take advantage of it. But, I mean, this is still... I mean... I mean, Fiery Wrath is going to do some damage to Togekiss. Air Slash, it just depends on how much damage Air Slash does to Togekiss, or from Togekiss to Moltres, honestly. But it probably won't do enough. This looks like a support Togekiss with Helping Hand, Follow Me, and Protect. It's got a Focus Sash, so maybe it is max special attack, max speed. I don't know. I know it's max speed. I do a decent chunk there with Fiery Wrath. And Heavy Slam is going to follow up for some good damage, too. So normally this does about like 60% to Scope Lens Togekiss. And that does a lot of damage to the Togekiss. It puts it into KO range. And then they don't even bother attacking my Moltres for whatever reason. But at that point, I don't think it matters because I'm pretty sure my Moltres survives the attack. Maybe Air Slash crit. What's this? This was Serene Grace. It wasn't Super Luck. So it would have been the regular 1 in 24 odds for the Air Slash to crit. But Even if it does get the critical hit, you probably have to get successive protects with your Togekiss as well. And at this point, I win the game. Fiery Wrath is just going to be able to knock out 2 Pokemon. And so, this, I guess with the Glastrier, I'm trying to think of a good way to make like a gift horse pun, because like you don't like, what is it? You don't bite the hand that feeds you? No, that's not how the gift cord works. That's not how the gift horse analogy works. I feel like I should know this, but I don't. What I do know, though, is that I managed to somehow squeak by this game because my opponent did not click Burning Jealousy. Now, granted, if they had hit their Icicle Crash, they also would have won, but I just don't for the life of me understand. Misclicks happen, I understand, but that was in the left slot. I don't know. All in all, a favorable turn of events for me. Definitely something I'm not complaining about because this matchup is pretty difficult. The matchup really hasn't changed much. I know a little bit more about I know a little bit more information about their team. I know the Togekiss is really fast, and I also know something else. I can't stop them from setting Trick Room if they want to. If they want to set Trick Room with Togekiss and Dusclops, I have no way of stopping them with my Spectrier. I also think that because of how well Trick Room worked for them, like Trick Room still was really good. They basically just set up Trick Room and they won the game, really. I ended up winning myself, but they should have won the game, right? Now, I could have made a few different plays, like potentially gone for that Iron Defense on Registeel in Trick Room, but nevertheless, it didn't seem very great. So what I plan on doing now is I'm going to lead Clefairy and Moltres. My opponent led so passively last time. Now I'm going to punish them for that. If you're going to lead passive into me, I am going to lead Clefairy and go click Sing. I'm going to have multiple opportunities here to click Sing if they led the same thing as they did in Game 1. And they do lead the same thing. They lead with Dusclops and Togekiss. So this is good for me. I'm going to have at least 2 shots at hitting a Sing. I'm also going to be continuing to click Sing with my Clefairy. I will happily just click Sing against whatever they've got here. If they don't follow me, then I potentially can put the Dusclops to sleep, and then I can Fiery Wrath it a couple more times. They do go for the follow me. It's kind of the same thing as in Game 1. If I get a flinch here with Fiery Wrath, that's going to be really good. That's going to put me in a huge advantage, regardless of whether or not I hit my Sing. And so, Sing does come out. I am able to hit the Togekiss, so that's great for me. So now my opponent's going to set Trick Room, assuming they don't flinch, and they don't. So they do go for Trick Room, get that set up. So now I have 2 choices. I can either Sing the Dusclops, or I can Sing the Togekiss, which is almost certainly switching out. The Togekiss does absolutely nothing on the field. If he wants to stay in with Togekiss and burn sleep turns, I'm okay with that. Because if he does that, then I won't lose anything from that because they're wasting Trick Room turns. And what I need to do is I need them to waste Trick Room turns. I also want to click Hurricane here. I remember I was thinking about this. Because last time we saw the Dusclops just healed up a bunch with Pain Split. It doesn't really do me much good to waste my time with this. And so my opponent's switching Glastrier. So I'm like, okay, great. If I hit either of these attacks, this is going to be perfect. They do go for the Pain Split into Clefairy, which isn't great. It means that Max Steel Spike will now definitely knock out Clefairy for sure. But I hit the Sing, and I'm like, yes! I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. If I hit the Hurricane here too, then I'm in a really, really great spot. I do miss the Hurricane though, but I can't complain too much about that. Hitting the Sing is much, much more impactful. So now I can go for another Sing, but I don't want to do that really. This Dusclops is going to be annoying, sure, but singing it at this point doesn't really do too much. What I would much prefer to do is put more damage on Glastrier. I don't want to max just yet because there's still several turns of Trick Room. I may want to preserve my max for later. Even with Spectre in the back, it's a decent max because I will be able to knock out the Dusclops. I can put defense drops on my opponent in order to set up KOs for Body Press. So that should be okay. I also get a nice chunk of damage here with Helping Hand, Fiery Wrath. It's going to force them next turn to go for another Pain Split. And they're running low on Trick Room turns. Because they had to switch it on that Sing, they had to take this guaranteed sleep turn. Now they have the possibility of waking up, but they aren't guaranteed. So this time I decide to max, and I'm going to go for Max Darkness into the Dusclops. I think this was a misplay. The reason I think this was a misplay was not because I wanted to click Fiery Wrath, but because I think I should have clicked Max Darkness into the Glastrier. By doing Max Darkness on Glastrier, if my opponent goes for Pain Split here, I'm likely not going to knock them out. I'm likely not going to knock them out with the follow-up Fire, the Max Darkness. So it's not a good trade for me. And if they wake up with their Dustclops and or they wake up with their Glastrier, and they get a Heavy Slam off onto my Clefairy, I would have preferred extra damage on the Dustclops, or excuse me, not on the Dustclops, but on the Glastrier, so that way my Registeel can knock it out. I can send in my Registeel, go for the Iron Defense, maybe do something with that. But yeah, the Max Darkness doesn't KO the Dustclops, but very importantly, my opponent stays asleep with their Glastrier. So this is good. I'm not complaining at all about this. This is definitely a good thing for me. So at this point, I'm just gonna follow me. I don't want my Moltres taking any damage. I don't want them to Pain Split it. I don't want them to Nightshade it. They can take me out at this point because this is the last turn of Trick Room. And they're going to be able to heal a little bit with their Dustclops. But they're not going to be able to heal enough to be able to survive a Max Darkness, which means, very importantly, I have stalled out their Trick Room. I also haven't lost any Pokemon yet. Now, they have a chance of waking up here with Glastrier. It's a 50-50 because they've already taken, what, 2 sleep turns? Yeah, it's 2 sleep turns. So they can either wake up this turn or they can wake up the following turn. And they do go for the max, so I'm like, okay. If they do wake up, that would be bad. If they stay asleep, that would be very good, because I would deny a Grim Nay boost, or not Grim Nay boost, but a Chilling Nay boost. So they would have less attack. My Clefairy would still be around to redirect for another turn. All's going to be good in the world, so I go for the Follow Me. Again, I'm attacking the Glastrier here because this turn I don't have to, for sure, because next turn I can always kill the Dustclops no matter what. And the Glastrier stays asleep. They attempt to haze away their special defense drop. I think that was very clever, because it meant their Glastrier is able to take this hit ever so slightly better, which is a good thing for them. The Glastrier being AV means that it's going to take like forever to knock it out. Trick Room's up. And now the Glastrier is guaranteed to attack this turn. They will wake up with certainty. So I was here calculating whether or not a Glastrier's Max Ice would knock out my Moltres with Friend Guard. And it should not. It should not knock me out. It could knock me out with hail damage, but it is very unlikely to. So I go for the Protect, because what this does is it guarantees my opponent is not going to get a Grim Nay boost this turn, unless they crit my Moltres. And if I guarantee that, that's going to be really good. They either going to hit my Clefairy for low damage, and then next turn I can go for like Follow Me and another Fiery Wrath. Yeah, I have options. They have limited options. So, yeah, I'm able to knock out the Dustclops, make sure it doesn't set Trick Room. I'm not messing around with that. My opponent does wake up. They do go for the Max Hailstorm, so probably not into Clefairy, probably going after Moltres. It is after Moltres. Moltres loses a lot of HP, but I do survive. And that's a clutch survival, because since I survived this attack, I'm going to get not only my Weakness Policy boost, but I'm going to get my Berserk boost. So getting both of those boosts is very, very important, because now I have a huge Fiery Wrath incoming. I will feint the next turn. If my opponent goes into Torkoal, that's still okay for them. They can set Max Ice and still KO me. So my Moltres is going down for sure. I'm not going to bother switching it out. My opponent can't protect on their Glastrier because they're Assault Vest. And they go into Togekiss, which has taken, or recall, it has not taken any turns of sleep yet because it immediately switched out into Glastrier. So at this point, I'm willing just to hit them for a lot of damage. Their Glastrier is at -2 special defense. I'm at +3 special attack. I've got Helping Hand. I'm going for this Helping Hand Fiery Wrath. I don't know how much it does to Glastrier, but it's at like 70%, so I'm like, okay, they've got the Assault Vest, but hopefully this KOs. If it does, then I will win the game right here, because I'll have done so much damage to their whole team. I'll have still Clefairy left. This will be fantastic. So I do go for the Helping Hand, hoping the Fiery Wrath is able to pick up the knockout The Togekiss attempts to either follow me or protect, but I can't do either because it's his first turn of sleep. Go for the Fire Wrath, and the Glacier does hang on. And I'm like, darn, that sucks. I mean, I can't complain again, right? I mean, I got a 3-turn Sing on this Glacier from hitting it on switch in, so yeah, definitely can't complain about that. But both my Pokemon are going down for sure. But I've got Spectrier and Registeel in the back. And this is looking good. I am, at this point, a little worried, though. I'm not certain that Shadow Ball will knock out this Togekiss. It looks like it could be close. You'll recall that in, I think it was my first round, I believe it was my first round, where I used Shadow Ball into a Togekiss, expecting it to do more damage, and it didn't do enough. So I want to be careful with assuming that my Spectrier will be able to knock out this Togekiss here. But if it does, then I have a very free, like Shadow Ball and Body Press. There's no problem with that. However, also, it would be nice for me to be able to get a special attack boost with my Spectrier here, because it's pretty likely that my opponent has Torkoal in the back. Based on how they played Game 1, it makes a lot of sense for that to be Torkoal. They played Game 1 with Torkoal in the back. It makes a lot of sense for them to bring Torkoal again, in my opinion. Their other options are Hydreigon or Venusaur, both of which seem pretty improbable, considering that he did the exact same play of really trying to get up Trick Room. So I'm debating here on exactly what I should do. So I also don't want him to wake up because his Togekiss can wake up, and also Snarl can miss. So there's a lot of things that can potentially go wrong here. So initially, I remember this turn because I was initially just going to go for Body Press and Shadow Ball, and try to pick up knockouts that way. I thought Shadow Ball was going to be enough to Togekiss, especially since I know it's max speed Togekiss. But I remember as I continued thinking about it, I remember I chickened out, and instead I decided to go for Heavy Slam into the Glacier and Snarl. So the reason I went for Heavy Slam is in case the Togekiss woke up. And then I would actually be able to knock it out at least, which would be good. But my opponent switches into Torkoal, and so that's not great. I wish I had, body press that slot a little bit. Snarl is good here still. I'm able to put a special attack drop on both the Torkoal and the Togekiss. Togekiss does remain asleep. There's attempting to go for a Protect there, so I'm glad it didn't get that off because now I get some damage down on both these Pokemon. But yeah, it's pretty stupid of me to go for Heavy Slam there. Even if I go for, suppose they do wake up and go for Follow Me, Body Press is still going to do it. Actually, it might not put them into Snarl Care, so maybe I can justify that past me. But now they're definitely in Shadow Ball KO range. I'm certain that Shadow Ball will knock out the Togekiss at this point. I decided to go for Iron Defense with my Torkoal. The reason I went for Iron Defense here is because I was afraid of the Yawn going into Spectrier, and so I wanted to force them to use Body Press. If they used I wanted to force them to not use Burning Jealousy, because if they use Burning Jealousy, they're at -1. It's going to do very low damage to my Spectrier. So the Togekiss does wake up, goes for the Protect, which blocks my Shadow Ball. And I go for the Iron Defense here, and so I'm like, okay, they're either going to Yawn here, or they're going to Burning Jealousy. They do for Burning Jealousy, which is, like I said, is not going to do very much to my Spectrier, but will burn my Registeel. And honestly, at this point, I'm like, oh no. I'm pretty sure my Spectrier kind of wins this on its own, but I've made this a lot closer than it needs to be. This is not good. I really don't want to waste my good fortune. I don't want to try to do that sort of a game plan again. I want to just win this one. But now my opponent, I think, has a really clever play up their sleeve. I didn't realize this at the time, so I wanted to Shadow Ball the Togekiss again, just to put damage on it, get myself a special attack boost. If I damage the Togekiss and knock it out, the Glacier can't protect, so Registeel can guaranteed knock out that slot. But I think my opponent here had a very good play available to them. I think if they switch out Togekiss, sack their Glacier, and yawn my Spectrier, then next turn they can double protect with their Torkoal and Togekiss. My Spectrier would fall asleep, and my Registeel would have to put the Glacier or put Spectre, like, I would have to do more damage, and they would have more Burning Jealousies to use against me. So, all in all, this is pretty awkward. If they go for the Yawn here, it's still not great. They go for the Burning Jealousy again, and I'm like, okay, that's actually great for me because I got the special attack boost. That means that I'm going to get burned here, and I'm fine with that because if I'm burned, then I can't get Yawned. However, at this point, that really doesn't matter too much. Because my opponent did not go for the Yawn, I am just going to be able to knock out the Glastrier with my Registeel, and I'm going to be able to put a ton of damage on the Storkle. I may not be able to knock it out, but even if I don't, it doesn't matter. The Registeel would be able to finish it off at this point. I believe Shadow Ball may not pick up the Torkoal, but it's even if it doesn't, Torkoal is not going to be able to knock me out in return, outside of potentially a double critical hit. So this game should be wrapped up now. I'm glad my opponent didn't end up going for the play I thought of. In hindsight, I didn't think of the play at the time either, so I can't fault my opponent for that. But Shadow Ball and Body Press should clean up this game. I'm going to be doing too much damage to my opponent, and they won't be able to do enough damage back. The odds of my opponent getting a double critical hit are low, and they aren't even able to survive the Shadow Ball, so that will lock things up for sure. So that's round 8. I have done it. I am 6-2. I have one more game. If I go 7-2, I have the potential to make it to the second day of competition, to the regional finals. It wasn't guaranteed. There were some opponents, or there was some players that could potentially miscut, because for whatever reason they weren't doing an all-X2 cut, they were doing just a hard top 16. And so there was potential that I could miss the cut, depending on how well my opponents did, because of resistance and all that. But, you know, even if I go... I can't even start thinking about resistance until I play my final game. So I'm not willing to really think about that kind of stuff until I see what happens in my next round. And there's a lot of killers in the next round that I didn't want to fight against, so crossing my fingers, seeing what I get. But in any case, good games to my opponent Brandon here. That misclick in game 1, I hope that they weren't tilted from it. They played fine, in my opinion, in game 2. The double sing, I think, just kind of ruined any chance of them making a comeback. I think the double sing was really, really good for me. But that misclick in game 1 was just so unfortunate for them. But yeah, not to dwell on that too long. Until next time, have a good one.